week 2 of the NCPBL. We had some fantastic matchups this week. Every game was super entertaining. I'm just going to do not a really quick breakdown, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about like battling strategy in this, because it looked like everybody did a really good job with team building this week. So I'm just going to hop right into Tommy and me. So this week, my first thought was he has Regieleki, so Nidoqueen is like non-negotiable. It has to come through because it's my only ground type, and Regieleki doesn't really have a lot of coverage. It hits incredibly hard with electric type moves, but otherwise I felt like I was pretty safe against it, so I just had to keep Nidoqueen alive for it. Plus Nidoqueen like is able to cover a lot, and he picked up Galarian Weezing this week, so I was like, yeah, he's probably bringing that. So I need some sort of poison coverage or maybe ground coverage. And then I had 2 setup sweepers, either Necrozma with Automatize, which in my planning was going to be 1 point faster in speed than Regieleki after he got its boost up, but he ended up running Timid on Regieleki, so it wouldn't have even mattered. But the reason I didn't even use Necrozma this game is because he brought Blissey. So my other setup sweeper was Kommo-o, which had fighting coverage on the physical side in order to one-hit Blissey after a boost. So that was generally my plan, and then the Clefable, Tapu Bulu, Mandibuzz was just kind of like some fat glue in order to pivot around and everything. Yeah, I don't really remember exactly what I thought he was going to bring this week. I went back and forth between a couple things, but I feel pretty good about this. I was super open if he brought Obstagoon. A Guts boosted Facade was going to do about like 66% to everything on my team. I did think he was going to bring Hydreigon, so I actually put Dazzling Gleam on Tapu Bulu, even though it's a physical attacker. Just a neutral natured special attack, so I ran Brave on him. With no investment, Dazzling Gleam did 100% minimum to it. So if he had that, I had a little bit of a check for it. And then I had to bring Clefable in case he brought Volcarona. Just with the Unaware ability, negating every boost that he had. I toyed around with the idea of like Talonflame to have a Brave Bird to knock it out, but decided Clefable would give me a little more utility against some other stuff too. So anyway, we go into the game, and I decided to lead off with Nidoqueen, only because I didn't think Blissey was actually going to be that solid as a lead, especially if I led Mandibuzz or Kommo-o, but, you know, good call on his part. So here, I started getting scared. I thought he was about to do to me what Paul did to him last week. He goes flinch into crit, and then thankfully I live on 20, and we're good. So he keeps going down. I'm just gonna skip through this. I'm roosting up until I can get a defog off, and I knocked off his Assault Vest. So I'm like, okay, he just has 4 attacks, whatever. Mandibuzz, he's not doing anything to Mandibuzz, so we're good. He misclicks Earthquake, but really wasn't going to change a whole lot in the end game. So here I'm just like, all right, well, if he's going to keep attacking, I'll just U-turn out. And right there, he goes for Automatize. And my jaw hit the floor. I was like he brought a setup move on an Assault Vest user, meaning if he has that Assault Vest on, he can't even use the move. Which blew my mind that he actually put that on there. He said it was a mistake accidentally. I thought it was a tech at the time. So since I knocked off the Assault Vest, I was actually able to just Flamethrower one-hit kill Celesteela, so it didn't end up mattering, but a little scary. I switch into Clefable. Physically defensive Clefable is going to be able to deal with Armaldo every single time. Just kind of going back and forth here with the Calm Minds. I didn't want to go like +6 on him, because Lucario could have came in, and that said, he was running Choice Scarf, so he didn't have a stronger Steel type move other than Bullet Punch to use. So I was able to kind of deal with it, but Mandibuzz physically defensive. I knew it wasn't going to do a lot. Able to just take it out there. So yeah, and okay, so right there, Mandibuzz, its speed can be between 148 and 284. I think it was at like 197 or something like that. Armaldo max speed can do 207, but the damage he was doing on Clefable indicated that he wasn't very offensive, so I would have thought it would be... It was unlikely that he would have been max speed along with like no offensive investment. Plus, even if he did have offensive investment, Mandibuzz probably would have taken anything as well because it's just so strong. Like it did 83 or 17% while I was roosted. And like from before, I knew Clefable was always going to be a good switch into this. Just keep going through. I set up pretty solid here. And I'm feeling really comfortable at this point with like my defensive pivoting. I'm just waiting for an opportunity to get Komodo in order to take out the Blissey. I could have definitely switched in on Armaldo at some point after he committed to doing rock slides, and I probably could have just set up on him. But the Regieleki could have revenge killed me anyway, so I'm just boosting up, doing my thing. And here I go for the Psyshock, and I see it does 39%. So he can heal up from this all the time. I just attack again just in case he didn't click that. And yeah, and now here I'm like, all right, time to start boosting. And I think I attack after this boost because I'm unaware, and I'm gonna start taking toxic damage. If I had Magic Guard, which is another common ability for Clefable, it wouldn't have... Toxic doesn't do any damage to me, but... So he makes a great play in Soft Boils on my first attack. And here, I thought he was just going to keep Soft Boiling until my Toxic damage went out. Because if I Psyshocked right there, I would have lived the Seismitoss plus the Toxic damage, and then I would have killed him with the next Psyshock. So I wasn't expecting that. It was a really good play on his part to actually go for the attack. I thought he would have read that I would have attacked, but nope, he called my Soft Boiled, made a really good play there, so I had to take out all those boosts. And here, get the Heavy Duty Boots off. I'm running Toxic Spikes on Nidoqueen, so idea is maybe if Blissey switches back in, it'll have to deal with that. Alright, finally getting the boy, week 1 waiver wire pickup. And I basically just... I said I'm going to get damage. I get a nice crit. A really nice crit. Wow. It's a really nice crit. Didn't really matter a whole lot, though. Max attack Tapu Bulu just slurped all that up. I was expecting him to go into Wheezing sooner than later. Because... Sludge Bomb was just going to absolutely destroy me. And I didn't really have a great way of answering back with Tapu Bulu, but thankfully I had Psychic coverage with Necrozma. 23% Psyshock, though, so I was a little pissed off about that. I couldn't believe it only did that much. But, yeah, whatever. Alright, Nidoqueen. Okay, here, Blissey's at 33%, and I didn't run the calc on it, but my thought process was it would be able to live 2 Sludge Waves, and Sludge Wave would have knocked out Wheezing from this range, and would have been a great play on Aleki anyway. Later in the game, you'll see it one-hits it. Sludge Wave would have actually one-hit KO'd, or 2-hit KO'd Blissey, so I should have always Sludge Wave, is what I'm trying to say. Because if he switches to Blissey here, and I Sludge Wave, I just kill it, and then I just win the game, essentially. But I didn't think it was going to do that much damage, so I went for the Rock Slide, because that would have definitely 2-hit Blissey. But he stayed in and just only did 13%, which was hilarious. But then a Sludge Wave, just another nice percentage. Wow. A lot of nice stuff happened this game. So I had to switch out because I wouldn't be able to hit Blissey twice before it soft-boiled. I go for my Clangorous Soul, get my boosts. I knew Blissey only had those 4 moves. Nothing would be able to take me out. Close combat. I think did like 120% minimum or something. And then I just sacked Komodo to go free switch into Nidoqueen, and I didn't realize he was choice specs, and that's it. So, yeah, GG's, Tommy. That was a really fun game. I think it was entertaining to watch back. Everybody watching it live, too. I'm sure it was pretty solid. We were taking our time with our turns, thinking it through. It was really good. The next game of the week was Joe versus Paul. I didn't get to watch this live because I was at drill, unfortunately. I helped Paul kind of, well, let me say, Paul has done the most extensive team prep every week so far. The man goes to the extra length to figure out what he needs to bring for coverage and defensive synergy and everything. I recommended Mimikyu over Dragapult on his team this week. Because it was extremely likely that he was bringing Porygon 2 and Kinkeldurr and Nihilego. Those three were like, yeah, they look really good against you, so you got to have some answers. And Mimikyu does a really good job against Kinkeldurr, which was his biggest offensive threat to this whole team, especially if he was running like Thunder Punch or something for Gyarados. So Kinkeldurr was going to be an issue, and Mimikyu was a really good answer to that. I just talked to Joe about his thought process on everything. He did not like that turn one. He had something else planned out and just decided against it at the last second, and it kind of put him behind the curve right off the bat. Basically had to sack P2 because nothing's going to be able to switch into a Flare Blitz like that. Mimikyu's Disguise obviously is going to eat the Ice Punch. Yeah, Mimikyu was a problem overall. Like, Metagross obviously is a super good switch-in, but the rest of the team is not really appreciative of a physical attacker. I was actually thinking Joe was going to use Thunder Punch this week, also for Gyarados, because of how good it was in week 1. But, you know, Rock Slide got some good chip off. Gyarados isn't necessarily that big of an issue. I don't think it did anything else other than take out Metagross this game. Oh, and Joe was telling me about Rillaboom. When he was prepping with it all week, like he's choice banded, so you basically always click Grassy Glide. That's like the best play. And later in the game, he clicks U-turn thinking that he'd had the same speed as Grassy Glide. You know, like forgetting in the moment that Grassy Glide is a like priority move only on grassy terrain, but like U-turn isn't. So Paul put a lot of bulk into his Mimikyu, which allowed it to live that it lived on 5% and then got to live again after Life Orb damage right here, which is crazy. And then so right here, Joe's going to go for U-turn thinking he's faster because he's been faster every time he's ever clicked Grassy Glide with Rillaboom. And just kind of had like a little brain fart about it, but in the end, it would have been tough. He probably still would have had to get a crit on Toxtricity to win. But there was definitely a possibility. So Rillaboom had to take a bunch of damage there. Mohawk Andy just coming in. He's just going to scream at Nihilego real quick. Excadrill was always a super free switch-in. Nihilego had 2 Rock-type moves and a Poison-type move. And so Nihilego's strongest Rock-type move, I think it's 110 or 120 base power, only did 26% to Excadrill. So like that was like totally countered using that. Grassy Glide's going to be able to knock him out from 75% with Choice Band easily. What's a play here? Yep. Toxtricity, switching into Mamo. Boomburst may have been the more optimal play there because it probably took out a 53. I'm not really sure the calc on that. He'd made a decent play there. I think 284. Yeah, so I don't remember what it set he was running on that. I feel like, I mean, it worked out because he switched anyway, but I don't think Ice Shard would have done enough. It may have put him in a position where Grassy Glide could kill it in the future, so it wasn't the worst play, but personally, I would have went for like a stronger Ice-type move there, just because I know I'm faster than Toxtricity. He has to sack Mamo against the monkey. because Monkey comes in and claims a kill. Grassy glides easily, going to take it out at 19%. Paul did a good job not switching into anything right there. Like realizing like you just got to get rid of Darmanitan, that's all good. And then he lives on 7%, gets a Sludge Wave off, and that's GG. That game was super, super fun to watch. Both of them did like an incredible amount of prep in their teams this week and brought some really good stuff. Like honestly, there's not like a whole lot to optimize either side. Like looking at Joe, like if Joe knew he was bringing these 6, maybe consider Tyranitar a little bit. Maybe run a different set on Metagross, but like really not a whole lot to change. Nihilego wasn't super strong, but it also wasn't going to be bad because it would be faster than Zarude and Gyarados. So definitely some good options. But yeah, that was a super fun game, and like I'm just so surprised by Paul's prep every week. Like it's so extensive. It's really solid. So we'll go to the next game. We got Berg versus Matt. So I helped Berg out a little bit with the ZVs right before the game. We got all that squared away. I'll help you again next week if you need it. But Berg's been kicking ass with team building. Like he built a really solid team. Like let me read off what Matt has on his actual team. So he's got Weavile, Ferrothorn, Blaziken, Xurkitree, Azelf, Scolipede, Klefki, Melodic, Cloyster, Doublade, Wishcash, and Caracosta. So right off rip, the most important thing that Berg had to bring this week was Rotom. Rotom is possibly a check to Cloyster before it gets a Shell Smash up. And this was a White Herb Cloyster, so a Thunderbolt would have killed it if he was able to get that attack off first. It's a really good answer to Blaziken as well, with how fat it is, and Blaziken not having something super effective consistently to run against it. I'll look at the team paste real quick. I don't know if he was running any rock coverage. Let me look before I sound super stupid. Yeah, he was running Earthquake. So, I mean, close combat would have hurt, but there was nothing that was going to be super effective on it. Now, this game, I got some comments. Got some funny ones. So Matt goes with the pretty standard Azelf lead. He's not running Boom yet. Still waiting on the explosion from him. Still waiting. Let's see. All right, so right here, Lapras, you have to sack it. That's like that was the right play. You didn't want to switch anything in. Okay. Lapras sacks fine because it wasn't really doing a whole lot afterwards, and you didn't want any of your others to take a knockoff from Weavile. This play was so psychotic that it worked. Flygon's 4 times weak to Ice, and Weavile is arguably the strongest Ice-type attacker in the game. So, I mean, barring a Cloyster that has a Shell Smash up, right? So, I'm sure Matt's freaking out right here. He's like, why in the living shit are you switching a Flygon into a Weavile? And Matt actually switches out and gets bluffed out and goes to Melodic. And this is just like the swaggiest play I've ever seen in the league. He just Earthquakes. Not super effective or anything as Weavile. Nope, just some good chip on Melodic and we're going about our lives. So it was really funny. So, and that chip was really solid on Melodic too. It's going to help Rotom kill it. And then here, he defogs into a Scald from Melodic. And I mean, Flygon getting Burned's not going to be great, but it doesn't really do a whole lot against the rest. It would be a good answer to like a Choice Scarf Xurkitree, having your ground type still. But like Weavile and Cloyster are like the huge threats, right? Well, I guess we'll talk about what actually happens later on. But Matt's running Ice Beam and doesn't Ice Beam because he's like, why would Flygon stay in on a Melodic? And it worked out again, which is just hilarious. And then, you know, Berg's going to get a little more chip here with Dragon Claw before going down eventually to the Ice Beam that would have killed him on the turn before. So, really funny so far. Rotom, good switch. You can just T-Bolt here. Right here he goes into Weavile. And I was talking to E when this was happening. And you really had 2 plays. You either Volt Switch here, or you Overheat and get the kill. Weavile is going to be an absolute menace against the rest of his team except for Rotom. So killing it with Overheat's not the worst option. That said, it's probably not the best option either, because then Cloyster can come in with a half special attack Rotom sitting in front of it and set up a Shell Smash, like no issue. That said, if Berg was to Volt Switch right here or whatever, and maybe go into Corviknight, pivot back into Rotom, do a little stuff like that, that could have worked out too. That would have been pretty solid. But as we see the knockoff come out, sure, honestly fine staying in with Rotom, but he goes for the Toxic. Miss isn't really that important. Volt Switch here was like a really, really, really solid play because he switched into Xurkitree. And me and E were screaming, you got to go into Decidueye here. Like, there was still a way to win this for Berg. Like, definitely, like 100%. This game's extremely close at this point. Matt probably has the upper hand because he still has so much offensive pressure. But Decidueye has to be your answer against Xurkitree. And this is just inexperience. Berg didn't realize Corviknight was going to be super effective hit from a Thunderbolt. And so he switches into Corviknight here, and unfortunately that was the downfall. So here I'm like, okay, go back and just go into Decidueye this time. No, went into Victini, lived, and he didn't go for the V-Create, he went for the Zen Headbutt. And even if he did go for the V-Create, then honestly probably isn't making that big of a difference because Blaziken and Cloyster just completely destroy the rest of the team. So the Corviknight play was tough. That was tough because you needed that alive late game, but now he's +2 special attack. That's just going to take out Rotom, but now it finally goes into Decidueye. And 2.5 times did 70%, so what was that? Divided by 2 do like 30. It would have done like close to 30-ish, 28% or so the first time that you switched it in. You know, and then you could have had a lot of like outplay ability from there, but you know, that's just inexperience, and as we go through the season, that's going to build up. But Matt brought a really, really scary team. Like, there's so much offensive pressure. Doesn't really have a whole lot of defensive switch-ins. It's just, I'm going to go in, and I'm going to punch you in the face, and if you can't handle it, you can't handle it. So yeah, honestly, like, yeah, there was a misplay and the game kind of got a little lopsided or whatever, but like up until that point, it was a really, really close game, and yeah, both teams were really solid this week. I play Matt next week, so I got to be prepared for the absolute demons he has over there. And the last game of the night, Dodge versus Tyler. We had the whole crowd watching this downtown in Baltimore. It was pretty solid. So, right off rip here, Dodge now knows, and everybody else in the league needs to know, Skarmory is very often going to have Whirlwind. It's one of the staples, especially if your team has a very predictable setup mon, like a Dragonite or something. It's really solid for Tyler to bring a Whirlwind Skarmory, like, even every week. Like, it's so consistent. Dodge didn't realize what Whirlwind did or knew that it was going to be running it, and got a little greedy and went for a second one instead of just getting some damage off. And now this really just put him super far behind because the rocks are up, and the only way he's going to deal with Skarmory now is by getting Rotom in. And let's see what turn ends up actually getting him there. Yep, and just Dragon Dances again into the Whirlwind. Unlucky Azumarill pull again. Goes into Rotom and then gets Whirlwinded out. Venusaur comes in. And, okay, so Tyler had no reason to switch there, in my opinion. Unless like Venusaur sets up a sunny day and then goes for a Weather Ball, there's nothing it can do to Skarmory. Skarmory, I don't know if it could actually do anything back, but it can just Whirlwind still. His Skarmory was Body Press. Yeah, so it wasn't going to be able to do anything against him. But if you just kept that Whirlwind cycle going, you're going to end up like breaking a Focus Sash or getting a lot more chip on Azumarill, who's already down to 59% between one Rocky Helmet and a couple Stealth Rocks. So, pretty crazy right there. Dodge gets a nice poison. Always need that chip on this fat bitch. Rodent comes in. I don't know if he was predicting something here, but like there's not a whole lot of offensive pressure Rotom can do against a Goodra with how specially defensive it is. And if you look at Tyler's team, Dodge absolutely has to keep this thing alive for Skarmory. And unfortunately, it was choice scarfed, and now rocks are up on the field to stay, and there's not any way for him to like efficiently take care of Skarmory. Ice Punch, not bad, covers both of the dragons, you know, who'd Gastrodon pretty decently. Dragonite, great switching on that. Emergency exit to get Gundam out. And here, Tyler ran the calc. Dragonite's Outrage only had a 40% chance to kill because he had so much defensive investment in Garchomp, and he got the roll. Pretty crazy right there. He's locked into Outrage though, so Tyler gets a free Calm Mind up. Probably should have switched the turn before, but that's alright. Especially defensive on a crit, only did 26 to Venusaur, so like, always a good answer there. But yeah, like Venusaur can't really touch Skarmory, so yeah, it was just tough, like, yeah, having a really solid answer to it in Rotom, and then kind of losing that win con. Rotom, like, it was in team prep, right? Like, before the game even starts, like, what is Rotom doing to his team other than Skarmory, right? It's not hitting Gastrodon or Groudon, not very effective against Tapu Koko, not very effective against Goodra. It would be good against Golisopod, but Golisopod's probably not staying in to hit it with anything. So, like, it was just an awkward position, I think, overall, because you had to have Rotom to efficiently deal with Skarmory, but then Tyler had a bunch of answers for Rotom, right? Like, so it was a good way of Tyler supporting something that ended up being a really solid win con, even though he wasn't expecting Dodge to bring all this. So right here, now I would be a little scared of like possibly liquidating and he going into Gastrodon. Everybody watching it, we were expecting Azumarill to be a belly drum up until this point, and I think that's also what Tyler was expecting still. If I was Tyler, I probably would have ran a calc defensively to see how much a Brick Rake from a choice banded Azumarill would have done to my Skarmory. That way you kind of get a better read on if it's banded or not. That way you can make a decision and not have to play around it like it's belly drum. But like Dodge's thought process is either I hit him with a Brick Break or I hit him with a stronger liquidation, since I get the stab bonus of it being a water move and I'm a water type. But if you lock yourself into liquidation, Gastrodon just comes in for free every time. So it was like a super uncomfortable spot to be in. So if he went for the liquidation onto Tapu Koko, there's a win con, I think, for Dodge, because Koko at this point, Venusaur's always the answer there. And as soon as he loses Venusaur, there's nothing that's going to be able to consistently eat Thunderbolts. First impression crit actually mattered, because he only had a 40% chance to kill with how bulky the Venusaur was. So that kind of, he got a lucky outrage, he got a lucky crit. You know, it always balances out. But now that Aerodactyl's out and rocks are up after that Skarmory Whirlwind, Dactyl's dead. Koko just gets to click Dazzling Gleam and then Thunderbolt into Azu. So, I mean, on these six, I think Dodge had a really tough matchup, but there were definitely like ways to kind of work around it a little bit more. I think the most critical part would have been when he switched into Koko onto Azumarill right here. Instead of going for Brick Rake, going for Liquidation or Waterfall or whatever you're running on it. Let me see. Yeah, Liquidation. So you go for Liquidation there. There's there's significantly less offensive pressure now on Tyler's team, and you might be able to pivot around, maybe get a leech seed up or something with Venusaur and stick around, because Venusaur would be a good answer to Goodra. A Flamethrower and Draco would both do a lot, but through leech seed and everything, like, you only have to get 23% onto Goodra. Like, you can definitely 1v1 that at this point. Obviously be able to take care of Gastro. Leech Seed on Skarmory so it can't sit in and whirlwind around all day. I think there were definitely some options. Like, the low-key, this actually switching into Coco from Skarmory could have been, like, just a massive throw. Here, let me run the calc real quick. It was just max attack. Oh, he was Sap Sipper. Okay, that's why I wasn't doing as much. Okay, so if we go to Azumarill and then Coco, Tyler, what were you running on your Coco? You had an interesting one. Okay, let's see here. This music is going so hard right now. Coco. All right, so this liquidation. Okay. All right, well, that did less than I thought it was going to. Where are we at here? This did 15%. Yeah, so you got a little bit higher roll on that. Okay, well, actually, I don't think it actually would have mattered. Dodge, if you run it, I mean, I don't want to, like, say this for sure, because Sap Sipper does have a really cool tech, giving Azumarill, like, an immunity to one of its weaknesses. But if you were to run huge power on it, and went for a liquidation, and Coco is at 85, well, it would have been at 100%. So you go for liquidation there, and you have a 37% chance to almost guarantee yourself a way to win the game. But, you know, it's just, like, that's the sets you run, and you can't predict everything, so, like, that is what it is. But overall, guys, this week was really fun. Some awesome games. Let me see if I can pull up the sheet real quick. So going into next week, we got the Lavender Town Ghouls in first place. They got Excadrill with 4 kills. Houston in second. Washington Pokemon Team, WPT represent. Cubone, Chicago, Orlando, Baltimore, Hartford, Miami. Yeah, I'm really excited for this. We got some really solid matchups this week. Really excited for Tommy versus Berg. Tommy helped him out with the draft this year. Joe versus Tyler. We got the rivalry game right there. It's like full on Red Sox Yankees. Let's go. MJC is gonna have some demons on his team I gotta worry about. If the playoffs started this week, we got Paul versus Tommy, Matt versus Matt, WP. We got the Matt versus Matt and Alex versus Alex. Wow. And then we got Joe versus Tyler. So we're just going to keep on moving on and have fun with it. So I'm going to end the video there. See you guys on Discord. Peace.